This is California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us today. Our guest, Janet Chin, she is a trustee on the Garvey Unified School District. And I want to speak with you, Janet, about the politics of what we know as the recall. California recalled its governor in 2003, Gray Davis. In Wisconsin, there was an attempt to recall its governor. It went down.
Right.
In Pasadena, recall petitions have been pulled against Steve Madison, a council member, because he voted in favor of looking at whether the NFL should temporarily house a team at the Rose Bowl. And now Janet Chin is seeing a group trying to recall her because of her support of a sitting superintendent. Before we talk about your situation, what do you make of the politics of the recall?
Recalls are a way to embarrass politicians. I think that's one of the main things that the emphasis is really on that.
Right.
We're seeing recalls on a local level now, I mean with city council members and school board members, and it's really about the reform or the direction, in my case, where education is going.
And what's interesting is, when we thought about recalls in the past, it really was to recall scoundrels, I guess you could say. And I've heard many prognosticators, many political scientists say the recall wasn't intended to remove someone from office because of policy disagreements.
Right.
I mean, you were recently reelected in 2011, and this recall petition is now swirling around you. What do you make of this new attempt to disagree with sitting officials?
The dynamics within politics right now, it's really about, who wants to change, who's in control, and who gets people elected.
Right.
So if we look at unions, we look at PACs, we look at how people are getting elected, and how much money is thrust, into their campaigns. It's really a force to make policy changes, and that's just the direction that local politics are going.
And what's interesting about the attempt to recall you is it is public knowledge. You have filed papers to run for the Rosemead City Council.
Correct.
That election will be held in March. If you're successful, you will have to resign from the board in which these people are looking to recall you. And so I'm wondering if this recall effort is more about trying to damage a city council race in Rosemead.
It could possibly be. My take is that I am completely proud and I feel like I've completed everything that I need to complete on the school district.
Right.
And it is time for me to move forward and give back to my community in which I grew up in. So I think that the reality of it is that, recalls, again, are about either, trying to get somebody to not be able to move forward
Right.
in some ways.
I mean, you've not been accused of impropriety per se.
I have not.
I mean, I know there's some crazy allegations. I'm a neutral journalist about the fact that you have a foundation, and somehow that's a conflict of interest, but there's no bona fide allegations coming at you.
Well, I'll tell you about this specific recall, or the intent to recall, is really it's being spearheaded by another school board member.
Yes.
Yes.
And that, one could argue, is amongst the ugliest intra-battle disputes you could ever imagine, that one of your own colleagues is involved. And as I understand it, it really comes out of your support of the sitting superintendent.
Correct.
I mean, you're allowed to have policy disagreements on a school board. It's surprising that that is the basis upon which a fellow member of yours is coming out against you. I also wonder, though, there are two other board members that voted in favor of the sitting superintendent. They are not the subject of recall petitions. Why?
They actually are the subject of the recall, but unfortunately,
For them. Yeah.
They are going to be reelected or running for reelection in November. So
The petitions won't be ripe.
they will not be.
And so as a result, it really becomes a waste of time.
Correct.
Because they're up for election in less than a year at this stage.
Right.
So I wonder, though, and this is my analysis, not yours, if this attempt to recall you, which still is just an attempt, I mean, the groups have to gather signatures, which can be very challenging.
Yes.
But I wonder if it actually can help your career. I mean, because look, all name ID is good name ID. And all they're doing is putting that name out there, Janet Chin. And I'm just wondering, maybe this is a blessing in disguise.
Well, even though I am disappointed with the fact that, there is this kind of ugly recall
Right.
going on. I do appreciate that the community is actually voicing their opinions and they are participating in the
Okay.
democratic process.
Well stated.
Yes, but I have to say that within the last 24 months, this superintendent, Dr. Sandra Johnson, has really made enormous changes, and we've reorganized in our administration, and so, you know, we're very supportive of our teachers and our unions, and I think that our teachers are just upset at the reform because it's not about money. In this case, it's not about money.
What's interesting is your school board 5 members?
We are 5 members.
And how many of those 5 have children in the Garvey Unified School District?
I am the only one currently.
Right.
Yes.
So, you know, it begs the question. I mean, if anyone knows how reforms are being effectuated, Mama Chin presumably would be one of them. Your kids are there, correct?
They are.
I want to shift gears slightly. Still talk about the democratic process. I want to talk about the recent election. As you know, President Obama was victorious.
Yes.
What was most surprising for many was the dramatic support he received from Asian Americans, of which you are one.
Yes.
To say that support amongst Asian Americans of Democratic candidates has soared would only be described as an understatement. In 1992, Bill Clinton received 31% of the Asian American vote. In 2012, Barack Obama received 73% of the Asian American vote, more than the Latino vote. Latinos voted 71% for Barack Obama. When I was studying political science, Asian Americans were the die-hard core Republican constituency. What's happened in 20 years?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy that Asian Americans are finally being seen as a viable piece of,
no doubt.
the democratic process. I do believe that because Asian Americans are mostly declined to state, they usually don't choose, right?
That is true.
So, you know, it was a little tough to kind of like survey them. So in the dynamics of politics, either side, you don't really know, which way they're going to go. I mean, look at the recent 49th Assembly District race, right?
Was that with Ed Chow and Matthew Lin?
Correct.
Right, and that was a heated race between 2 Asian Americans.
Correct.
But the Democrat won with more than 55% of the vote, I believe. Against a very viable Republican opponent with a tremendous biographical sketch.
Right.
So what's happening? Why are Asian Americans breaking so strongly for the Democrats?
I think the San Gabriel Valley specifically, because we are the highest
nationwide.
concentration. I know, but I want to
talk about the San Gabriel Valley.
Yeah, let's just put it in perspective of the area that I'm from. We're looking at Asian Americans who are very much for that democratic process, the democratic agenda.
Big D?
Yes.
Big D.
Big D.
So it's education.
Yes. Women's rights.
Yes.
Yes.
Healthcare reform, I understand.
Healthcare reform.
I was reading polls that had the Obama plan at higher approval amongst Asian Americans than the rest of the population.
Correct.
The question, though, is what can the Democrats do, and you're a Democrat yourself, to solidify the Asian American bloc in their camp? Because if those numbers hold, it really becomes very difficult for the Republicans to make headway.
Well, it's important to see who the leadership is also, who's running. And it's about a quality Democrat running.
I want to ask you about 2 Democrats, Mark Takano and Bera. California is sending 2 Asian Americans to Congress. One of them a gay Asian American, Mark Takano. How does that make you feel? Other than the obvious.
I'm extremely proud, being very progressive myself.
Right.
And being able to see that there is a pathway to get to Congress.
It is
for somebody who looks like me.
Right. It is a stunning development, and one that I know political scientists will look at for years to come.
We will be studying.
Yes, her name is Janet Chen. She's a member of the Garvey Unified School District School Board. She's also running for Rosemead City Council. That election will be held in March 2013. My name is Brad Pomerance. You're watching California Edition.